welcome to G.P.S, also known as God's Play Steps. Once again, I'm your host, Ufan, and I'm with.
Letitia Williams, hello.
So, let's start off. Letitia, how's your day been? How's your week been going?
Oh, goodness. I know the last time I was here, I was letting y'all know that I got a new job at Walgreens. And my week has been pretty good, actually. Learning a lot of stuff. That's been pretty good. A lot to learn. A lot of things that Walgreens offers. So, yeah, just
Okay.
training a bit.
Alright. Yeah, my week, actually, it's been actually pretty good with me. Nothing to complain about. But one thing I did notice is, I noticed that I've been running into a lot of people, whether it's at work or just friendships that I do have. A lot of people I know are going through some hardships. So that just has me to be in prayer for them. Even some of people that we wanted to have for the podcast aren't here because of some hardship. So it just reminds me to always stay in prayer for others, even when stuff isn't going on with me. That I need to pray for others and be more considerate of others and just be constantly praying. Whether God's blessing me, but there's still people around me who I need to pray for constantly, because it's not just about myself.
Mm-hmm.
But a topic that I was thinking about this week that actually somewhat ties into this is what do I do, or what do we do when we feel like we're being overlooked by our family, our job, our loved ones, our friends? If we're always feel like we're being overlooked or feel like we're being used, and it's just like, God, when am I gonna get shine? When is it my turn? So it's like I never get praised or anything, and I'm always the person who's trying to climb up. So what do we do when we feel like that?
Um, well, personally, I have felt that way multiple times, you know. But I've learned to not expect um, appreciation from people. You know, not everyone's going to show appreciation. Not everyone is going to praise you for things you've done. I don't know, today I set up a new vacuum that my mom has bought. Yep. And I didn't expect anything. I vacuumed the living room, my room, the hallway, but that's just something I felt that I was supposed to do, but I didn't expect anything out of it. I just felt, it's something I wanted to do, something I needed to do. And I feel like if you expect praise or appreciation, that's just gonna bring you down. And that's going to kind of eat at you in a way. I remember when I used to expect it, it was eating at me, like, oh man, I did like a lot of work for this person, and they did say not one thank you. Oh my goodness, like that's gonna eat at you, and it's gonna make you feel very terrible. But I just kind of learned to pass it up and not expect it from anybody, no matter what I've done, even if it was like I don't know, like 10 hours worth of volunteer work. I don't really expect a thank you. And I feel like that's something that everyone should have kind of instilled into them. I feel like, I don't know, in a way I feel like we shouldn't really expect it because, the only person we should be praising and appreciating is the Lord. That's one thing. Because, he's done a lot more stuff than setting up a vacuum or, doing 10 hours of volunteer work. He's done a lot more than that. And nothing that we do is going to compare to what he has done for us, what he has done for everyone. And I gotta feel like that, And that's why I don't expect it, because I haven't done as much as he done. And sometimes he doesn't even receive praise or appreciation or thank yous from people.
Yeah, a lot of times he doesn't. Yeah. And I think you hit on something very important too, which is, like you said, yeah, a lot of people, we shouldn't have that expectation to be like, I should get being praised, I should be lifted up for doing this for this person. but that's the mindset the world gives us and what we think. But one thing I think about when I think about this question is, once you're asking that question, or once we're in that mindset, if I do this, I'm expecting this person, I'm expecting this from this person or that person. Even look at it in relationships. If I do this for my wife, this is what I'm expecting. If I do this for my husband, this is what I'm expecting. If I do this for my friend, this is what I'm expecting in return. As soon as you're in that mindset, you're already set to be, you're already setting yourself up to be upset, and they're already in a bad mindset, because when we do something for others, you do it out of the kindness of your heart. You're not doing it to get any recognition or anything like that. But in the world we live in, as soon as we do something for someone, we want to be like, oh, I did this. I need people to know. I need people to see what I did. I need to be lifted up, even in the workplace. And it's actually, the funny thing is, when you think about that, most people who get the recognition in the workplace or in the home, or let's just say maybe at church or just your friends, usually those people are the people who are screaming out what they did for everyone to see. Because it's just like in the workplace, the person getting the most recognition is the guy who's just yelling out everything and being extra, like, oh, okay, we see what he's doing. And the person in the background who's probably doing more doesn't get seen because they're not being as vocal, as boisterous as the other person. Like, look at me, look what I'm doing. So just like, oh, I'm looking at this person, and the person who's doing what they're supposed to do in the background, I don't see. But once again, if you continue to do that, God's gonna bless you. Because even look at Joseph. Once his brother did sell him to Egypt, and he was working for the Pharaoh of Egypt. As he was working, he was in the background, just doing that, and wasn't trying to get acknowledgement, but he just continued to stay focused and didn't care what other people were doing. And God blessed him, and then he got lifted up and appointed to a higher position because of his diligence and just staying focused and not comparing himself to others. But sometimes we just get in our own way, wanting to be like, well, if that person does that and I could do it better than him, so I should be where he is. And then we get upset and be like, well, I feel like I'm being treated unfair now. When at the end of the day, like we were just talking about, when we get in that mindset, we're losing the heart to give, and now it's more focused on, I'm doing this because I want to get something out of it.
Yeah, you're kind of doing it for you and not for them. It's like, I don't know, you're expecting something at this point. And it's taking away the main focus of what you're doing. Like, I know, like, jobs are different, because of course, like, sometimes you only got a job because you want money. Like, that's an expectation you're willing to have, you know. You gotta have that, like, why else would I work for you? Like, but it's that's a whole different topic. But it's things that should be done out of your heart, like, I don't know, sometimes I help at the children's ministry here at the church. I do that out of kindness, out of my heart, because if I did that and expecting something out of it, that would take away the main focus. That would take away everything, you know? And if everyone thought that way, then nobody would be helping out, nobody would be volunteering, and we would be in a way worse place than we are now. It's just simple things like that, you know?
And an example in the home, and I think we all been there when we were with our siblings, growing up with our siblings, is sometimes someone just says, oh, I could help out my brother or sister clean up something that they did. In our mind, we're just like, I didn't do that, so why am I going to help them? And then just like, instead of just, it's just like, and they wouldn't do it for me. So it's that thing too, just like, why am I gonna do this for them if they're not gonna do it for me?
Yeah, you shouldn't have that expectation either. Just because someone else is not gonna do it doesn't mean you shouldn't. Like, if you see other people, I know one example, a lot of people aren't really double masking, and I understand, like, I wouldn't really want to be double masking either. But I've heard, there's new variant of COVID-19, and that made me want to double mask, and just to protect myself and others in case anything happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people are probably thinking. I know a lady came up to me, saw me with two masks on, some gloves, and she saw I kept like putting on hand sanitizer and stuff, and she was like, "Why are you double masking? Like no one else is. Like you're safe, you're good. Like, like no, I'm just doing it for me and to help others. Even though no one else is doing it, I'm just doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And other things like just cleaning up after someone, even if you didn't make the mess,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I completely forgot where I was going with this. But it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Even if no one else is doing it, you should like take the big step of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not gonna receive praise or appreciation,
Mm-hmm.
it all adds up in the future.
Mm-hmm. And even if like it's not even being vocally praised or being said, most times people see it and they'll acknowledge it later. Like for example, some stuff I've done for people who I didn't realize people were watching me, which like even with stuff like in my past job where I would go above and beyond, do things that weren't part of my job title just to help out other people. And I was doing that out of the kindness of my heart. I didn't care if anyone saw or anything like that. But it ended up people did see, and actually I got praised for it, and I wasn't trying to get the praise. And actually too, my my boss even I got praised, but then they're like, you can't do that because it's not in your job title. And if you get hurt, then it's gonna be a liability on us. I was like, okay, I got it. But secretly, I still kind of did it without my boss knowing. But just cause like I just wanted to help. I wasn't trying to get any status or anything like that. And technically, I was doing that extra help, pouring out to others, and then I could have got in trouble for it. But it was just the willingness to want to do unto others, just help others, and that's what we're called to do, just love on each other and not focus on ourselves and be like, what is it for me? And that's how come it's so hard when people are in the mindset of, well, if I do this, what's in it for me? Or if I do that, or I always feel like I'm always at the bottom being overlooked.
Yeah, someone's gonna see it. Maybe you don't see that person seeing you, but they see you. And a lot of people, when you see teachers or staff saying, oh, this lady is a very hard worker. How do I know? Because I watched her. I always watch her. I always see what she's doing. Even though I don't acknowledge it or let her know that I see what she's doing, I see her, and like I could give her a recommendation. I could get her to higher positions in the job workplace. I could get her what she may want, and just little things like that. Like maybe people won't see. Sorry, maybe you won't see that person looking at you, seeing what you're doing, but they notice you. They do. Like, how do you think people get traits such as they're a hardworking person, they're a good organized person? They receive those kind of what is those words from other people, I wouldn't be saying I'm a hardworking woman if no one else said that to me. If my boss told me I'm a hardworking woman, then I would put that on my resume. I am a hardworking woman because my boss said so, and you can call him up and he'll tell you too. It's little things like that. And how do I know I'm organized? Because someone else said I'm organized. It's things like that, and I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to break down, but
I think the best thing too is when we feel like we're being overlooked, it's we're not, because if you really think about it, the person who's really examining us and looking at us is God, and He sees everything we're doing, and we're not being overlooked. And actually, it's probably, in my opinion, I'd rather be overlooked than have the world looking at me and looking at everything I'm doing. Because even when you look at the Bible and look at the people who were, let's say, overlooked for a period of time, let's say David. Everyone was looking at, before David defeated Goliath, everyone was looking at David's brothers.
Mm.
David was an afterthought. Literally, he was an afterthought. No one cared. But he just did what he was supposed to do and stayed focused. He wasn't complaining about his brothers. He didn't care. He just focused and did what God called him to do until that time came, and he was prepared. He was ready, and God used him. And there's multiple examples of that where God had everyone was focused on someone else, but God was preparing someone else.
And there's a word for things. I'm trying to think of it. I can't think of it. But it's a word for doing things without anyone else around. Like, if no one else was around, would you still clean up that mess? If no one else was around, would you still help that person? Like, it's doing things even when no one else is around. And you were right about David. Like, his work was overlooked, but he still, beat Goliath. He still did his thing.
Yeah, when time came, and then everyone looked at him like, "Oh, where'd you come from?" And actually, it reminded me why this question even popped up in my head, because it reminded me of stuff I even went through. Just even when it comes to just sharing the word or having this podcast, or even things that I talk to people about. Like, it was a pastor who just said, "Oh yeah, you're like a diamond in the rough." I'm like, "No, I've been here." I just wasn't running around showing like, "Look at what I could say, look at what I could do." But I was here. If you ever asked me, I would have given you the same knowledge that I'm giving you now. But it's more so it wasn't time, and I just didn't want to just blurt out something without it being my time.
Yeah.
Because it's all about timing too. Same with, like, when David did something when it wasn't his time, it would have thrown off everything God was preparing him for.
Yeah.
Same with who were we just talking about before?
I don't know. I guess Moses would be a pretty good example.
Moses too, and it starts with a J. I just can't think. I don't want to say the wrong person's name.
No, I don't know. Jude?
No, Joshua. Yeah, was it Joshua with the robe when we were talking about?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah. No, it was Joshua. But with him, he also just stayed focused on what God called him to do and didn't try to move ahead or do anything, and just stayed focused on what God called him to do, even when he was in the background and people would say he was being overlooked. But he just stayed focused until God was like, "Okay, now I'm going to use you. Now is the time." So a lot of times when we feel like we're overlooked, we just gotta remember that God already has a plan for us, and He's about to open us. He's about to show us something, and the only reason why we're overlooked is because He's preparing us for something. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm disagreeing.
Oh.
But we have a verse from the verse doctor, Colossians. Sorry. I'm chewing gum. Sorry. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with your whole. Sorry, I can't see. Sorry, the brightness was a bit too low. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with your whole heart as working for the Lord and not for human masters. You hear that? That's crazy, you know? Like, people, if you don't understand, human masters could be anyone that is above you. Anyone like a teacher, a boss, supervisor, something like that. You should work for the Lord, not just for them, you know? Like, doing this homework assignment is going to be good for the teacher, but it'll also get me places. Like, it'll boost my grade. And with the boosted grade, I get to go to college. And with college, I get a degree. And with the degree, I get a better job opportunity. Things like that, And it's just, you're working for the Lord in a way. But trying to, like, break it down and I'm trying to see how it works for the Lord. Because I feel like there's viewers thinking like, how does that work for the Lord? I don't understand. It's kind of building yourself up to be a better person.
Yeah, and then also you gotta remember too, when we do try to do something for people of this world will let us down anyways. So there's no point, even if I'll even just use like my parent or my boss for example. I could do everything they want me to do, and just everything that they want me to do, and they may be like, that's still not enough. You can't please people of this world.
Yep.
So no matter what you do. So if you're putting all your effort to please people of this world, you're gonna just continue. You're gonna be burnt out, feel underappreciated. Because even just look at Christ once again. Christ did everything, literally everything. Boy died and came back just for us, and people were just like, nah. Like, so if anyone could feel appreciated, I meant like a guy who literally died and came back for you, until people are still like, nah, I'm good on you. I mean, that's underappreciation. Like so if you're trying to compare, like, no one could compare to that. But it's just to say that we can't focus on people of this world, because then we're just going to be stuck in a pattern like, well, I did this and they didn't say that and they didn't say that. Even people inside the church, like we said before, like, I'm pretty sure people will say like, oh, he didn't say thank you once, maybe I forgot. It's not like I was purposely trying, but it happens.
And then the little things that you do will build your character. Like, doing this volunteer work will build your character and make you, in the future, want to do more volunteer work or want to help others. That'll build you up into wanting to maybe help others learn about God. Maybe help others with homework. Maybe help others get a job. Things like that. And it's little things, just little things. Even doing a homework assignment, a simple homework assignment, will build your character. Maybe you'll find a way to get motivated, and you'll use that method of motivation for future assignments or for future tasks. It'll just build you in a way. Little things can build you up. Like, I don't know, ants can build a whole colony. It's the little guys that count. So any little thing you do, it helps build you up. And any bad little thing that you do, like steal cookies, it could also build you up in a negative way. So
and I think you hit on something very important too. And like, first thing you said was just every little thing you do, even if it's being overlooked, no one sees it. But the thing is, you're doing it and it builds your character. And even if you think no one sees it, it's building your character. And the more you do that stuff and people see it, whether you see it or not, then people are going to know something about you, whether they say it or not. It's one of the things now it's to a point where just like, oh, did you hear Letitia did this? You might be like, I watched Letitia, even though she didn't know I was watching her. And that's not in her character. Like you don't even gotta defend yourself now, because people were watching you and you acting in a character. Maybe you thought people weren't looking, but you acting in a character, and then people already knew, like, that's not this person. Like, as soon as someone says something, they're like, nah, that's not even that person, so I'm not even gonna listen to it.
Well, it's just interesting. You really don't know how many people are watching you. Like, there's literally an apartment complex right next to this church, and there might be someone watching me right now. You never know. It's It's interesting. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Yeah, but that actually ties into a topic that you had, Letitia. That this actually ties in together with the topic you had. Do you mind? Do you remember what you were asking? What the
Oh,
question was?
yes. Um, the consideration one.
Yes.
Well, this topic does fall into that. Um, how we were saying people can be overlooked. It's also kind of doing things without anyone being around. And we kind of touched on being considerate of other people. Even if it's not part of your job scope, even if it's not part of what you should be doing, but it's the right thing, it's just being considerate. Even if no one's gonna praise you or appreciate you for it, it's just being considerate.
Mm-hmm.
Like me double masking and putting on gloves and washing my hands
Mm-hmm.
every 30 minutes. Um, it's things like that. I'm just considerate of other people, considerate of myself,
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. I see a chair laying down on the floor, and there's a bunch of little kids running around. Like I'm gonna pick up that chair because I don't want no little kids to trip. Because then I don't want the little kids to be crying to me. Like that might also be for myself because I don't want to deal with crying kids. But it's also being considerate of little kids getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's I think that's the biggest thing we deal with in the world, and even just in the church. Is just how do you be considerate to others? Even when someone just comes to you with a problem, how am I going to handle this problem and be considerate about this problem that someone has with me? Like, even if it's like, do I just tell them this and like I'm telling them the truth? I don't care if it hurts their feelings, X, Y, and Z. Or so how am I going to be considerate? And a lot of that too goes with wording and just being mindful before we even say something.
Yeah, you have to assess the situation
Mm-hmm.
and think of it through someone else's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
At my job, I'm not gonna say any names or anything, but there was this lady that came in. She was old, she needed help with getting money out of the bank or whatever, and it was a rush hour pretty much, and I was helping her first, but it wasn't even part of my job to help, so there was people lined up waiting to pay, and I was the only cashier on duty right now. And so I was helping these people pay, and I said, I'll be right back. And like 5 minutes later, she comes and like, oh, what are you like, it's a rush hour, like, you gotta help me first, help me, help me. And I'm thinking, like, oh, it's, I will help you, just gotta wait a second, let me help these people first because this is actually my main focus, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And she was saying how it's rush hour, and why am I the only person on the floor with there's like about 10 people in line waiting to pay, and she's busy talking to me, and I'm just trying to listen to her, giving her my attention, and she's yelling, saying, why is it rush hour? Why is there so many people here? There should be another person on duty. And I feel like she didn't assess the situation. Like, I'm the only person on duty, but you're talking to me and taking my attention away from, getting these people out of here. I ain't gonna say anything, but like, I'm not mad at her either. It's just people should assess the situation. Like, you can wait till like after I'm done with the people to then express your emotions of how you felt about rush hour and me, or having to wait a little longer for me to help others and then get to you. It's just little things like that. You have to assess the situation and just be patient at it. Like, of course, a lot of people, think before they speak. It's little things like that. Like, I'm not gonna talk about, I don't know, backpacks right now because that's not what we're talking about right now. I'm assessing the situation of what we should and shouldn't be really talking about right now. Or I'm not really gonna tell a person how to fix a car and they don't even own a car. Like, what? It's so weird.
And it goes deeper than that too, because it's just like sometimes too, if a person's fixing a car, sometimes assessing the situation could be like, yeah, I know the knowledge, and this ties it back into sometimes people will say like, oh, you're a diamond in the rough. I'm like, no, you've been here, but if someone isn't talking to you, you just hear people talking about, oh, how could I fix my car, talking about a car, and then you come in and say like, oh, I know how to fix it. It's just like, oh, but we weren't talking to you, and you already, now you came off as someone who just was butting in a conversation. Now
Yeah.
you're just kind of like, oh, we weren't talking to you. Or if you're at the gym, I think I said this analogy with Keon before, like if you're at the gym and you're working out and a guy thinks maybe you're doing something not correct, but the guy's like, oh no, you're doing it wrong. You gotta do it like this. Once again, you didn't really ask for it. The person may had good intentions, but they may not assess the situation and be like, oh, that guy was a jerk. Even though he was
Yeah.
just trying to help. But
Yeah.
it's
and
just like,
it's little things like that, you
Mhm.
know. It could make you come off bad.
yeah, and it actually goes back to that timing thing too. Even if you have the best intentions, but if you come off bad timing the way you present it, it could turn someone off, and then you're like, why, why did, why did they not receive what I was giving them? It could have been timing, what you were saying, and just butting in a conversation that you didn't even know those people, and now you're just butting in.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of an example.
Well, I got an example right here from Daniel, and this is when Daniel was going to talk to the king because I'll give you a precedent. The king was having a dream, and he made a declare like to all the prophets saying like, if no one could tell me my dream, I'm gonna or decipher my dream, I'm gonna have all the prophets of the land executed. And the reason why he said that is because he didn't want the prophets to lie and say like, oh, this is how I interpret your dream. So he was just like, I want someone to interpret my dream correctly. And so when someone came up to Daniel and Daniel asked, oh, what's going on? Because Daniel was considered a prophet. He was like, oh, what's going on? And one of the king's guards told Daniel what was going on. And before Daniel even answered the king's guard, this is how the Bible says Daniel responded. Oh, I just lost it. I was scrolling up while I was talking. Where was it? Okay. In Daniel chapter 2, verse 14. Here, I'm just going to read the whole thing. When the commander of the king's guard had gone out to put to death all the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. So right there, he spoke with wisdom and tact. So he already was thinking before he just blurted out and said anything. He thought it through. How am I going to talk to this person? Because it's already a hostile environment. How am I going to talk to this person? I'm going to tactfully talk to him. So then he asked the officer what was going on. And why did the king issue this harsh decree, which was to kill all the wise men? And then the guard explained the matter to Daniel, and at this point, Daniel went to the king to interpret his dream. But before that, when they said Daniel answered in wisdom and tact, I look at it like this: is Daniel just didn't blurt out whatever he said after when he was talking with the person. He actually he prayed about it, he thought about it, he meditated. Like it could be sometimes it could be a quick meditation, like, okay, this person talking to me, God. As they're talking to me, I'm like, okay, God, tell me what to say to this person at this time. It could be that fast, and then God will just give you something to say instead of just being like, oh, they said this, I'm gonna say this back. It could be like 10 seconds, 5 seconds for you to be like, okay, God, what should I say at this moment? How should I respond to this?
Mhm.
And with those 5 seconds, God will decipher something and give you something to say. And with that too, when you do that, it's even when someone comes at you, let's say someone comes at you crazy or someone comes at you harshly, you think like, God, how should I respond to this person? What should I do? That 5 to 10 seconds, your negative response to them like, oh, they cussed me out, I'm gonna cuss them out back. You that 5 to 10 seconds you took to God, how should I respond to this person? That anger is already kind of taken out because you're like, God, how should I respond to this person?
Mhm.
And that 5 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds you take to tactfully seek with God's wisdom, your split second reaction's already gone. And you'll be like, no, that's not right. And then you think more.
Mhm.
And it's something too, it's just like when you don't think about it, but just that 5, 10 seconds before you answer, when someone's even a hostile conversation, that could save you your job. That could save you some people their marriage. It could save so much stuff. But it's more so just in conversations than just in anything. You just got to be considerate. How to be considerate? Once again, the Bible even says you listen first, listen before you speak. And as you listen, then you could even also just pray for God, how should I respond to this? Listen to what they're saying before I just react and say something back.
Yeah.
That's how come we're called to be slow to speak.
Yeah. It'll even maybe even open doors for you.
Mm-hmm.
Just even if they're screaming and shouting at you for something you might not have even done.
Mm-hmm.
Just listening to them, making them feel heard, may calm them down a bit, may make them feel less stressed or angry towards you, and maybe they'll even come back and apologize for what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they didn't, you shouldn't expect that, you know.
Mm-hmm. And that ties back into that other thing we were just talking about.
Mhm. Like even if you shouldn't expect thank yous and appreciation, and you shouldn't expect people to apologize either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, having less expectations really just makes your life easier. It made my life easier. I know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because I definitely was one of those people that expected thank yous and appreciation from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I would go above and beyond just for someone to say thank you or I appreciate you. But now, since I don't expect it anymore, I feel less stressed. I feel less overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's a point like I feel the same way, and it's. I mean, this may seem harsh, but when I say this, but this is just how I think about it now. When it comes to someone saying thank you and something like that, now it's like more so it's like I don't even really care. Like, oh, I could care
Yeah.
less if you did it or not.
Yeah, like it gets to a point where
I did this because I wanted to, and I'm like, oh, okay. And
yeah,
it,
and it goes with everything, you know. When you do something so many times, you get used to it, and it feels like it doesn't matter anymore. Like with exercising, you do it for a good amount of times, and it's like, oh, it's just the normal routine. Exercising, I can do that in like an hour. You
It's
know?
just something you just do now. Just like, oh, I was nice to this person. That's just what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's just training yourself to have less expectations. It's gonna make you a better person. It's gonna build your character, and it may open new doors for you. I know me having less expectations, it made me feel more happier. It made my mental state a bit better. Um, I'm not too sure if I could say it opened doors for me because only God opens doors for me. Hey, yeah.
And I think one thing about it too was having less expectations and things like that. It touches on something I've seen a lot, which is it's a very thin line too. It's because just going to college and just seeing people and talking to people of the world, I noticed there 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 are sometimes there's two types of people. People who understand like, okay, there's no expectations, and I could, if I do something nice for someone, I'm not expecting anything back, and it's okay. But then on the flip side, and I actually like these people though, that I'm about to say. They're the people who like, I've done so much for people, and now I don't want to do anything for anyone because people always let me down. I get where those people are coming from. Trust me, I understand them completely. If one of you listening are one of the people like, yeah, I poured out to so many people, but I've always been burnt. Like I get you. I understand that. I understand that completely. It just, at the end of the day, it just, I got to the point where now it's just like, yeah, I did something nice for you, but if whether you do something nice for me back or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't burn you out. It didn't put you in a poor state of mind. It didn't depress you. It didn't make you sad. It didn't bother you. And when you are unbothered, it is the best feeling. Oh my goodness. It is the best feeling.
Yeah, and then for those people who are wondering too, like, oh, how do you get along with those people who are like that, where just like, let's just say they're more pessimistic about the world. The reason why I get along with them and actually like talking with them is, even though they're pessimistic, they're the most honest people. But they're pessimistic because of the things they've seen. It's just like for example, let's say people inside the church and people who are walking with God. We've seen a lot, but we learned to put our trust in God. Some of the people who tend to be more pessimistic, and some people who, let's say, used to be inside the church, saw the same stuff, but instead of just putting their trust in God, they just was like, man, I trusted that person, and now this happened, and now they're just more pessimistic view on life. But the reason, like I said, I like talking with them because deep down, their character's still there, but they just burnt, and certain things happened where now they just don't want to fully trust people. But once again, too, with my character, I'm very upfront. So even though they're pessimistic towards other people, there'll be people who say like, "Oh, I hate people," blah blah blah. But then deep down, they really care for people, but they say they hate people just because of things they experience.
Yeah.
Those people love me because I'm honest and I just keep it 100, and it's just like, I hate people, but you're different. I'm pretty much what they wish they had, and they still have that deep down inside of them. It's just they're afraid of being burnt. They're afraid of being people taking advantage of them again.
And I have a few side comments. There are some people that will take advantage of you. You gotta realize that. You gotta come off. You know, there's gonna be people that see that you go above and beyond for them, and they'll take that for advantage. And I've even noticed that this week. There was some particular person that took a bit advantage of me, you know, but it doesn't get you. It doesn't. You're not helping me. But I didn't expect her to help me anyway, but it's just a repeated process that goes on and on and on, and it kind of drains me. So you gotta actually assess those type of relationships and situations as well, to see what's good for you and what's not good for you. You know? But then there's other people that will ask you for things and realize like, wow, this person does so much for me. I think I'm probably gonna go over to her house and make her some fried chicken today. And you know, like, or I'm gonna go over to her house and make some fettuccine. Like, because she does so much for me, that's the least I can do. And people will do that.
Or they'll reciprocate the stuff you did for them, they'll do it back for you.
Yeah.
Like people who would normally, let's say, they wouldn't pay for their friends when they go out to eat with their friends. But maybe you did it for them once, and then like I have friendships where it's just like, I don't even know I'll go out to eat. We don't even know who's gonna pay until after, like, oh, you got me or I got you. And it's not even like we planned out, like, okay, we're gonna go eat. Oh, I got you this time. I'm like, okay. he could say that like 2 times, and the next time like, oh, I got you. We're not taking like, oh, how much I paid for you or how much you paid for me. It's just more so. The friendship is just like I got you and you got me, and we're not keeping track. But I actually got a funny story, and this is something that when I even think about it now, it's something that I probably got to work on. It's more so, and it only happens when I'm close with someone. Well, maybe I don't, but I'll tell you the story. Because it was when I was in college, and going back to it was one of my friends I made when I moved into the dorms. And if anyone knows anything about the dorms, I had a roommate who decided he wanted to pay extra to have no roommate because he was one of those people like we were just talking about. He was a really nice guy, but he got burnt out by people, so he's like, I don't like people, and he would just like kind of push people away. And it was to the point too, like you even look on his room door, it had like a skull, like a hand. I'm like, most people like, oh, I ain't talking to that guy. Especially let's say like people in church, they may be intimidated. Me, I didn't care. I talked to him, got to know him as a friend and all that stuff. And I came in. I was the last person in the house to come in. So everyone else was there for like a whole semester before me. So he always would isolate himself in the room. Everyone was like, oh yeah, that's just him. Like he doesn't. But as soon as I built a friendship with him, I have no boundaries. As soon as I'm your friend, like I would go into his room. Like once again, he had like a school and stuff like that. But I went into his room, pulled up a chair, and just would just sit, and we would just be talking like this for like hours. And then he got so used to it that he just started leaving his door open. And like, you gonna come in? I'm like, oh, okay. But then when I realized that, I'm like, man, you had bad boundaries.
Oh my god.
But just like, but as I talked with him, it just like, once again, it just one of those things. Like he had some of the same views I've had. Not even some. He had the views, but just like he was burnt and didn't want to trust people. Now, just like, what the point now of trusting people? People are just gonna hurt you. People are just gonna do this. Why am I gonna be faithful with the girl if they're just gonna do this and backstab and all this stuff? And some of the stuff I'm like, yeah, it happens. Like Letitia was saying, people will use your kindness as a weakness. And that's how come I say too, like I love the people who view things like that. I get them, I understand it, but I just kind of went a different direction than they did. Because there's only two directions you could go with that. It's either it's whatever, or you end up being like, oh, I hate talking to people. There's no in between.
And then that's kind of like stereotyping a bit. You should, stereotype people, thinking every girl is gonna hurt you, or every person with long hair is just gonna have hair in the shower.
Yeah.
You should treat everyone as an individual. You should treat everyone with kindness, no matter what they look like, what they may be, what their views are. Cause you never know. You might find a guy like you think.
And I think too the hardest thing with people, and like I said, some of you guys may have those views who are listening right now. I think the hardest thing with that is you have an open mind, but as soon as someone does something, then you're just like, oh, he's just like everyone else. And like I said before, maybe one day I will forget to say thank you, or I will do something not purposely, but maybe off-putting to someone, or maybe I'm just having a bad day. And I mean, we all do too. That's another thing too when it comes to being considerate with people and stuff like that. Sometimes it's even just being considerate, like, why'd that person come off that way? I wonder what's going on with them. Like, instead of being in my feelings, I'd be like, why would they respond that way?
Yeah, and it's just also assessing the situation. I remember I'm usually nice as a cashier, but when there's about 10 people, 5 to 10 people in line, I get a bit more serious and more rushing. I start rushing a bit. And I remember this lady that came in, and it was rush hour. She was like, you're usually so nice. Like, what's wrong today? Like what's wrong today? Like, I'm thinking, girl, I'm in a rush. There's like 5 other people behind you. But yeah, it's just thinking, kind of assessing the environment around you. Like, there's people there's a lot of people I'm rushing, you know. Maybe that's why I'm not as nice right now because I've got to rush it. I'm trying to get all these people out of here because there's angry people. They might complain to me. You know, I'm just preparing for that. Things like that.
And I think too that the stigma when we even think of people inside the church who are walking this class, we have the view like, oh, they always have to be happy, smiling, and everything like that. But sometimes, like, yeah, life will happen. Life does happen, and it just like you need. Sometimes you need to vent, or not you need to vent, but you will say something and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, but it's too late now, and then someone could run off and be like, oh, well, you're supposed to be this. Now, once again, it's just being compassionate, and sometimes just understanding where some people are at a time. Because even when we look at some of people in the Bible, if you look at even just Peter, for example, some of the stuff you see Peter do and say, you'll be like, and he was one of Jesus' 12 disciples. This guy, the guy who literally denied Jesus 12 times, and the guy who straight up cut someone's ear off when he was just ready to fight. That guy, but Jesus was compassionate and understood the situation. And we could list off more people who did certain things, and you're just like, this guy really?
Yeah, like not all Christians are gonna be happy 24/7. You know, even if we're in church, you might see crying, you might see people angry, stressed. You know, but they may have just came to church just to relieve some of that stress, or to get some word from God. You know, just to learn more. And to find the source of that stress and to relieve themselves, you know, to feel better.
Even look at Paul, for example. Anyone who knows Paul before he became Paul, he was that guy no one wanted to talk to because he was killing Christians. He was that guy saying like, you ain't living right, you're gonna die. And once he converted to Paul, he started giving the gospel and preaching the correct thing. But honestly, and this is just knowing people in general, is there's still probably some of that in it. Like there were probably some days where he may have said something, and people might go, oh, you said like that. Like he'd be like, oh, because Paul was that guy. Like he was just like straight. He was straightforward. So, and
yeah, it's just can't treat people based off of stereotypes. Kind of goes back full circle. Like people change. They might have been mad and yelling at you the day before yesterday, but today now they're being nice. You can't be like, what the heck? You were just yelling at me yesterday. Like, get out of here. Like, no, you should at least let them speak their mind and see what was going on. You know. People change. Everyone changes. Like even I changed. Like come on now. I ain't the same person as I was when I was 3 years old. Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's just one thing we just got to think about, even just when we think about how come I'm being overlooked. Because just everything we talked about, just why am I being overlooked, or why aren't I getting the recognition I believe I deserve? And it even goes into how can we be more compassionate? It just goes back to we just gotta not stereotype and focus on God and what God called us to do, and not focus on the world. Because I think all of this goes back to looking at what people are doing around us. But at the end of the day, it just goes back to Him. And I think actually that's a perfect place to stop for today. But I just wanted to end off in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you for the wisdom and knowledge you shared with us today, Lord. Lord, I just pray for everyone who is going through any hardship, Lord. For we know that this time, Lord, there's people who need you, Lord. We just lift those people up, Lord, with anything they need, Lord, because we know you are there, Lord. Lord, and we just pray for the listeners who are listening that are seeking something, that need something. I just pray that you just go into their hearts, Lord. Just ease their mind, ease their soul, soften their hearts, Lord. Lord, because we know that what you have already done for us, Lord, and we just want that same, everything you've done for us, Lord, we want more people to experience. Lord, I just thank you for what you're doing and what you continue to do, Lord. Lord, I just thank you and give you all the praise and all the honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. That was good.
Yeah, it was.
Good talk. That is the end of G.P.S.